In this video, we're going to be making a tier list of the best and worst stratagems in Helldivers 2. I'm going to be doing this on tierlistmaker.com. And I'm going to have here, you see on the screen, I have on the left, I have all the stratagems here on the tier list maker. On the right, I'll go ahead and show each one so you can remember what it is. You see that little video over there, it kind of shows it. You can see a little bit of the info. It's a little blocked off there, but it'll help give you a little bit of reference point for what we're looking at here. So the very first one is going to be the Orbital Gatling Barrage, which is this one. And for this one, I feel like it's pretty bad. I'm going to go ahead and put this in D tier. Now, I may rearrange these as we go. As I put more on the board, it kind of helps me to give a scaling of where I'm at on these. So it's just not enough damage. Like, it's just going to... It's not enough damage. It's too inconsistent. It's good maybe early game, but late game is terrible. All these are going to be referenced for late game, by the way. We're doing a late game tier list, like, you know, doing Helldive, difficulty, stuff like that. So the next one on the list is the Orbital Airburst Strike. Now, this one's better than the other one. It's C to B, you know, in that range. I'm gonna give it a C, though, because it's kind of impractical to use. Kills the small enemies, doesn't kill the big enemies. Shoots 3, which is good, and the cooldown's not too horrible. So it's all right. But there are just, like, better options for clearing the small enemies is the issue I have. This one, you have to funnel them through an area to actually get value. So next up, we have this one, the Orbital 120 MMHE Barrage D. Not powerful enough, and the damage is unbelievably inconsistent. It's just all over the place. You can see it in the little video there. Just terribly inconsistent. Next up is the 380 MMHE. It's better than the 120, so we'll put it to the left of it, but still terrible because it's just all over the place. So either maybe you kill some things, or maybe you kill literally nothing. It's just so inconsistent that there's no way. There's just no way. Okay, so then next up, we're going to take a look at the Orbital Walking Barrage. Now, this one has potential to be used effectively if you plan it out right, but still pretty awful. I'm going to put it in D tier. It's just not good, man. It's just not a good stratagem in my mind. It's just not, it's too hard to get enough good value out of it, basically. Now we have the Orbital Laser. This one, I'm going to start with A tier. I may move it to S tier later on. As we add more things to the list, it might just be S tier. Like, so don't worry, we might revisit that as we put more things on the board. It's so good for killing heavy enemies, and it can kill lots of weak enemies. The drawback is 3 uses per mission and a long cooldown between each one, but it's a really good late game stratagem that can give you a lot of values. Mainly because heavily armored enemies are the biggest issue you're going to run into late game. Like, the small ones are nothing. Just use your normal guns. It's just the heavy ones. Can you deal with them? And this can deal with them, potentially. The Orbital Rail Cannon Strike. So we're going to put this... like B tier, I guess. Like, I like it a lot because it combos with certain things. So, like, I can flamethrower out the bottom of a Bile Titan, and then it lowers his HP enough to get one shot by the Rail Cannon Strike, and it has a low enough cooldown that's, like, not so bad. But there's better options. I've been playing it a lot lately because I think it's fun. But honestly, there's probably better options than that. I wouldn't be too convinced that you should use it in every situation. All right, so Eagle Strafing Run. It's good early game, and it's easier to get consistent value in the little guys, but still pretty darn bad. So we're gonna put in C tier. It's, if you're level 1, you can get, it's a decent one for clearing little guys, but that's about the end of it, basically. All right, so Eagle Airstrike. I'm gonna put this also in C tier. Well, let me think about this one again. I might put this one in B tier, actually. I'm going to put it in B tier reluctantly, but I'm not, like, super convinced that it should be there. It's kind of between B and C, honestly. I mean, it can kill a big wide area of enemies, and it can do some damage to the heavily armored ones. Not kill them, obviously, but it can do some damage to them. But the area is not very large. I'll put it B, but just keep in mind, it might be C. It's kind of right there. All right, Eagle Cluster Bomb. A tier. A tier, it's up there with Orbital Laser. Because when you have a lot of little enemies in a, chasing you down, or you're getting overwhelmed, you can throw those down, and it's very easy to control the spread of where the explosions are, and easily rack up a ton of kills and take the pressure off so that you can keep on going. I've literally had like 40 eliminations with one Eagle Cluster Bomb in the right scenario. It can be insanely powerful if used in the right scenario. All right, so now this tier list is kind of all over the place. I need to actually find... Okay, this weapon's up at the top. It's suddenly jumping up to the top. So it looks like we're looking at the machine gun. Very good early game, terrible late game. Late game, basically useless. It's just that it can clear weak enemies, but weak enemies are not your problem late in the game. You should kill the weak enemies with your primary and secondary, so there's no reason to use up a stratagem slot to kill the weak enemies, and that's all it can do. So, pretty bad late game. Really good early game, because that's all you're facing early game. Bad late game. All right, now let's jump back down to the hangar, so let's go find that one. We got what looks to be the napalm. Yeah, napalm airstrike. I'm going to rate this one as probably better than the machine gun, but still horrifically bad, because the dot damage from the fire is not enough damage, and unlike the videos, the enemies don't stand in them. They run right through them straight to you. And I guess automatons, it hardly even hurts a lot of them, so not really going to do anything. Only usable in bug missions, basically, and it doesn't do enough damage over time, and those run through it with more than half HP, and you got to kill them anyway. So not that good. All right, so now we got the jump pack. Jump pack, I'm actually going to put it C tier, because, like, realistically, I'm actually going to put it at the top of C tier, because it's, like, niche. It's very good early game, because you can cheese. The only thing this is for, really, the only thing this is for, is jumping on top of a ledge so the enemies can't reach you anymore. That's what this is for. Everything else, I mean, yeah, it's nice to jump over enemies, or it makes you go traverse the map a little faster, but the cooldown on it is horrific. Like, you have to wait like 20 seconds before you can jump again and stuff, so not very good. But it can be used to cheese, and that can get you some serious value in some certain scenarios if you want to play that way. All right, so now we got Eagle Smoke Strike. So Eagle Smoke Strike, this one's going to bother people. I'm putting this in B tier, because if you want to play stealthy, if you want to be able to disengage from the enemy, then it's actually insanely good. If you know how to use it correctly, if you actually will take the time to learn how to use it to disengage, you can just disengage. Oh no, I've got 100 enemies on me. I just run and throw it, and then run through it, turn left or right, wrap around a corner, and they all lose me, and I get away. And now I can re-engage a different way, and all the ones that spawned in from airdrop ships or from bug breaches, they all despawn after a little while of not being aggroed on anything. So, you know, a great way to survive if you're playing more stealthy, but not the best, because it's better to kill them. It's better to get good enough that you just kill them. So that's why it's not A or S, but it's definitely good if you want to play. But it's a different play. It's only good if you're willing to commit to the playstyle. Otherwise, it's just an empty slot. All right, so now we got the Eagle 110mm rocket pods. I had high hopes for this one that it'd be good, but it's terrible. It's probably even worse than these two right here, because it targets the largest enemy, but it doesn't do enough damage. So it doesn't even kill a charger, I don't think. So it's like, all right, what are you gonna? You can blow out the abdomen of a Bile Titan, then use all 3 of these in a row on it. Still doesn't kill it. So it targets the largest enemy, which makes it do nothing because it doesn't kill the largest enemy. So it's pretty bad. I'm not a fan of it. I think it sucks. All right, so now we got the Eagle 500 kilogram bomb. That's this one. I'm gonna put that in S tier. This one has a huge learning curve to actually consistently get the value without killing yourself. But the main thing is, once you get the ship module upgrade to have 2 of them per rearm, that's 2 dead Bile Titans from full to dead if you can get the placement just right. Or, you know, destroyers or whatever else, you know, from the automatons if you can get the placement just right. But again, it takes skill. You got to be able to bait the enemies into being on it at the right time. You got to adjust your timing if there's the 100% stratagem increased cooldown effect and stuff like that. But it's definitely S tier, insanely good. So then there's the Orbital Precision Strike. This one's okay early game for killing a large enemy, and the cooldown's pretty small, but late game it's just not enough value. Like, even if you land a direct perfect shot, you might not kill a Bile Titan, basically, or something really big. And even if you do, it's just like, all right, that was nice, but now what? It has potential with some skill. Like, so I'm gonna put this at like C tier, the high C tier actually, because in theory you could, like, say for a Bile Titan, you could blow out their abdomen, and then if you get the perfect placement, you put it down, walk forward, walk back, and things, get them to stop right on it. It goes right on it. Maybe it could work out, but also it could miss a little bit and then just miss. So, like, and if you have the orbital stratagem scatter, it's useless then almost. So inconsistent, but it's not the worst thing ever. But definitely good early game for killing a charger or something. And then we got the gas strike. Now this one I've played it a few times. I'm gonna put it at the bottom of C tier, because if you get a giant group of enemies chasing you of Terminids or automatons, even, I guess it damages them too. And you throw it in the right place and get them all to just hang out in it for a long time, it can kill all the weak ones, but it's not as good as a cluster bomb or something. But it definitely can get value, but it's definitely, there's better options. That's always what it comes down to, right? There's just better options. Orbital EMS Strike, I'm also going to put in C tier. It has potential, but the problem is you need to build around it, and it's like, it's better just to build one of the other builds where you just can kill everything. But It definitely can be very useful in certain scenarios to stun a bunch of enemies and then just pick them all off while they're stunned. The other problem with it is, though, it doesn't last very long. So it's all right. It's all right. But it's pretty bad overall. Orbital Smoke Strike. I'm going to put this one... God, I'm probably going to put it like in D tier. It's like basically the worst version of the Eagle Smoke Strike. Like maybe I'll put it at the bottom of C actually. Because it's like, again, it's one of those ones where it's like the Gas Strike or like the other previous one we talked about. You got to build around it, right? It's like you either commit to, oh, I'm going to play like a stealthy assassin, or I'm not going to use it at all. Like you're going to use it to disengage, and it can work, and you can lose all the enemies, but wouldn't you rather just have other stratagems and then just kill them all? You know what I mean? Like, speaking Helldive 9 specifically, that's what I'm thinking of, but, you know, it's one of those situations. There's just better things. Okay, next up we have the HMG emplacement. This one is awful, man. I'm going to put it below the machine gun because you have to be stationary. And so if you get overwhelmed, you just die, or you get off it and let it blow up and it did nothing. It definitely can be good for killing weak enemies, but it's not going to kill any of the large enemies. And they're just going to come over and kill it immediately when you're playing at higher difficulty. So early game can be fun to toy around with, but late game, I just don't see the realistic value in it. All right, so next up, whoever did this tier list thing put these things out of order. So the next thing is the... It's expendable anti-tank is what I'm looking at there. This one's better than you would think, actually. So early game, it's actually pretty good. I'll put it at the top of D tier. Well, I'm going to put it at the bottom of C tier again. Early game, it gives you an ability to kill things that are strong. Late game, there's just better options. But the main thing that is so good about it is the cooldown is just so low that you can get value, but it doesn't do enough damage. So like you can blow I always use the Bile Titan as a reference. Blow the abdomen out of the Bile Titan, bring this thing down, shoot both of them into its head, it's still not dead. So it does a lot of damage, it can kill a lot of things, can blow the armor off a Charger's arm or something, but once you get higher level, you have better stratagems. But if you're level 1 or 2 or 3, whatever this unlocks at, it's actually alright. I used it when I was a new player, and it was pretty good. It was pretty good at the time, and then it falls off mid to late game. But pretty bad overall. Alright, so now this tier list is totally out of whack. So we got some green one. It's the shield generator relay. I don't know them by heart by icons. Okay, shield generator relay. This one I don't have a whole lot of experience with. Terminids, bad. And then automatons, it could be okay, but there's probably better stratagems. So Terminids walk right through it, so it does nothing. You can use it to group them up, though, because they'll go straight for it and aggro to it. But other than that, bad. And then the automatons, it's all right, but I'd rather play aggressively instead. I'm going to put it bottom of B tier as an average. Automatons might be top of B tier. And then Terminids, it'd be like down in D tier somewhere. So I'll just put it bottom of B tier. It's, you know, you could find ways to use it, right? If you want to play with it, you think it's fun, you know, there's ways to use it. Tesla Tower. Now, this is the one thing on the list that I have the least experience with. I've used it once or twice, and I've seen other people use it once or twice. The thing is I don't think it kills the large enemies. I'm not 100% on it. I'm going to put it at like the top of C tier because it did seem pretty useful for killing the weak enemies and being a distraction and things, but I don't know. It's questionable whether or not it's going to get you any value. And again, it might be top of D tier instead. I just don't see it enough. And one of those things, if it was really good, I would see it more often. I've only seen 2 people ever use it. And you know if this thing was OP, everybody would run it. I'd see it all the time. So I think that's kind of confirmation bias of what I'm thinking here is that it's all right, but it's not really worth having compared to the better options that there are. All right, so next up is the anti-personnel minefield. This one is really good early game just to have some way to mass clear enemies and then falls off late game. It's pretty bad late game. So I'm going to say it's probably better than the napalm strike, and it's probably right there with the airstrike as far as usability. I'm going to put it above the airstrike because it's guaranteed you get the value. The airstrike could miss. This one, they're all chasing you. You throw it down, you run through it, and they all run through. You can force them to run through. You can go back and forth and come back around in it. Guaranteed get all of them to explode and damage and kill all the weak enemies and stuff. So good for weak enemies. Doesn't do enough damage to large enemies, so it's useless late game. All right, so now it's looking like, is that supply pack? Yeah, that's supply pack. Okay. Supply pack S tier. It's, you know, there's multiple options for the backpack, which we'll get to as we go through this list. But it's one of the best. It's slightly less good for automatons because there's things that you might need more in automatons, like the shield one, which we'll get to in a sec. But overall, it's really good. If you are skilled and experienced and you don't need a shield generator in order to survive, like that's where I've gotten to. I rarely die, at least against automatons without, or against terminids without, you know, I don't need the shield pack to stay alive, basically. But solo Helldive, I don't need the shield pack to stay alive. You just got to keep up with the enemies and know how to position and things. And so if you get to that point, it's good because then you just keep killing. You just keep killing, keep stimming, keep throwing grenades. You just keep doing everything. Oh, you need something else, just eat another supply pack. You put down a resupply, fill it back up, and keep going. Very convenient for just never-ending unloads and getting like 600 kills in a game or something because you can just keep firing, basically. So, very good. S tier, definitely an insanely good option, you know, if you want it. Grenade launcher, this one, because Railgun got nerfed, it almost made this one better. So I'm going to put it in A tier, bottom of A tier. It can kill chargers. It can't kill Bile Titan, basically. It can kill some of the more armored robots and things. The problem with it, though, is the inconsistency. You need to have high ground and be looking down, or else it won't explode when it hits the ground. And basically, the angle it hits at will determine whether or not it explodes or whether or not it bounces, which makes it very hard to get consistent. If you have a ton of experience with it, you'll just kind of subconsciously know how to do it all correctly and never mess it up. But that forces you to position certain ways you might not want to position. One for that, if it just always exploded on contact, I might put it in S tier. But because of that, that brings it down to an A tier. But it's very good. It can kill chargers. Can't really kill a Bile Titan unless you want to unload like 6 magazines or 4 magazines or some ridiculous amount. But it's definitely good for killing mid-tier armored enemies and killing weak enemies when you start getting overwhelmed. And closing the bug holes and stuff on the Terminated missions. It's got value. It's good. Laser cannon, I haven't played this much since the buff. Before the buff, it was like B or C tier. After the buff, I'm going to put it at the top of B tier, but I'm not entirely sure if that's where it is. I haven't been able to play with it on the automaton missions, but it's one of the problems, even with the automatons, you got to stand out in the open since it's a channel and you're just holding it, you know what I mean? So it's like you're vulnerable on that. And then on the Terminids, I know it doesn't easily kill chargers, and I know it doesn't kill Bile Titans. So you're running the problem of like, I'd rather, what else would I rather have? You know what I mean? Would I rather a railgun or a flamethrower or some other than grenade launcher? Like, it's tough. I'm not 100% though after the change. It's better after the change, but I haven't had a lot of chances to play it a ton after the change. But it's somewhere in this range. I'd be shocked if everyone thought it was S tier. Maybe there's some cheese to it that I didn't realize. And also, it's unlimited ammo as long as you don't let it overheat. So, you know, but it also can overheat. So in a pinch scenario, you're just like kind of in trouble. All right, so next up we got Incendiary Mines. Now this one, yeah, we're putting this down below the machine gun. Maybe above the machine gun, actually. We'll put it below the machine gun. Because, yeah, it does a little bit of explosive damage. I'll put it above the machine gun, actually. A little bit of explosive damage, which can help clear some score like the other mines, and then catches fire to the ground. Problem is the dot damage from the fire is just awful. It's not enough damage. So, I'm not a big fan. I think it's not super great. All right, and then the Guard Dog Rover. This one is probably A tier. It's a good backpack option because especially good for more inexperienced players because it'll help keep enemies off you when you're running away, and it'll just help clear enemies faster. So, but I feel like the other backpacks like Supply Pack and this other ones we're gonna mention might be better, but it's either bottom or top of A tier. I'm just gonna put it at bottom, but just keep in mind it's just generally up there as an option. If you like it, go ahead and use it. It's pretty good. And we got Ballistic Shield Backpack. So this one, I'll be honest, I've never used it. I've never seen someone use it. And the reason, I mean, I need to try it sometime, but it's like pretty straightforward. What do I expect? It's that the shots are going to go off of me, but there's a good chance that if I get hit by a rocket, I'm probably still going to die. So against automatons, it's not actually useful. And then Terminids are melee, so they're just going to swarm me and it's going to be useless. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's some insane thing about it that I've never realized, but I've never seen someone use it, and that's probably because it's terrible. I've never even attempted to use it because I can just tell by looking at it that it's probably terrible. But I'm down to be wrong. But I'm going to put this down as literally the worst thing in the game because of it's better to kill things than to, you know, turtle and try not to get killed in a game like this. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's actually insanely good. I'm actually going to try it at some point just to make sure that what I think, but it seems pretty bad in theory on paper, but that's the one thing I really actually have never used. Everything else I've used on this list multiple times, but not that one. All right, so we got the Arc Thrower next. This one's bottom of B tier. So it's definitely not as good as the laser one, but it's still okay. So what's good about this one, it might even be better than the laser one, but what's good about this one is clears small enemies. It has unlimited ammo. You just keep firing forever. But then when you get to the big enemies, it's awful. Even just a Brood Commander, you got to shoot him in the head like 8 times or something to kill him. And that's kind of where you run into the problem. Laser Cannon kills big enemies even faster than this one. And then the armored enemies, I can't remember if you can kill the armored enemies, to be honest. I really don't remember. But it's just in the middle somewhere. It's not the best thing in the world. I tried it a bunch because someone told me once it was insanely good. So I tested that out, and then it was not so great, unfortunately. But it's all right, you know. It's all right. It's not the worst thing, but it's all right. And then this other one, I'm trying to find it now. Is that the spear? No, that's not the spear. That's the recoilless rifle. And the recoilless rifle is pretty good, actually. I'm trying to think exactly where I'd put this thing. I'd put it at the bottom of A tier. It's it's better to just do it solo and just go for the reload when you get a chance. Because it'll let you, more easily kill a charger. It'll let you finish off a Bile Titan. It can get some value. It does enough damage. It's like, unlike the other, like the expendable anti-tank or whatever, this one tends to do enough damage, actually, and you get multiple shots without having to go and, like, recall it in or go find it on the ground or whatever. So it can do some work, but there's generally better options, but it's definitely something that, you can roll with and get value with. All right, so then we're going down some turret stuff now. So machine gun sentry, early game really good. As soon as you start having armored enemies and bigger enemies, it's useless. So I'm going to put this over here. It's going to be better than the randomness of these things, but not as good as the airstrikes after it, maybe, because it can just get blown up by a charger. Just run over and kill it. But if there's not a charger around or some other bigger enemy, like a destroyer or something, a tank, it can kill a bunch of the little guys for you, but it's not that good. Then we got the Gatling Sentry, which is the better version of that. And now that one, I'd probably put actually like up here, just because it actually does enough damage that it will kill all the little enemies. It does way more damage. So you'll actually get value as long as it doesn't get blown up immediately. But other than that, it gets blown up immediately, and it doesn't kill the large enemies. So late game, you don't want to use it in Hell Die difficulty. All right, so next up we have the Mortar Sentry. Now this one, I'm going to put up at A tier. I think it's probably better than the Recoilless Rifle. Maybe better than the Guard Dog. I'm going to put it below the Guard Dog, I guess. It's just good. If you put it in a good spot and let it farm, it can just kill lots of enemies, and it can kill the big enemies if it gets uncontested. The problem is getting contested. Enemies will run over to try to kill it, and you have to protect it. But if you put it somewhere good and can protect it, it can kill the Bile Titans and Chargers. It takes a while, but it can kill things. And it has a lot of ammo. And it shoots over hills because it goes straight up and straight down. So it can you can put it somewhere safe and then farm, and it gets value. It's a decent option. If you like it, go ahead and do it. All right, now we got the other Guard Dog, and this one I'm just going to put next to the other one. I don't know for sure which one's better. They're more or less the same thing, but maybe if I really used it a lot, I'd be like, oh, this one's slightly better than this one for whatever reason, but it's more or less the same thing. It protects you while you're running away, and that's really the big selling point for it. And then the Autocannon Sentry is, if you have the ship module to where your sentries turn faster, it's A tier. Without that, I'm going to put it at like the bottom of B tier, because if they don't have the ship module for it to turn faster, it turns so slow, most of the time you'll struggle to ever get it to shoot. If you can get it to shoot, though, it can just kill Chargers and Bile Titans and kill tons of little enemies. So, it can be good. That ship module is available. It's somewhere in A, not sure. Without it, it's bottom of B. Or maybe even C. I'm just going to put it like maybe right over in here somewhere, like there. Somewhere in the middle. We'll put it right there. All right, Rocket Sentry. You think it would be good, and it's terrible. So it says it targets large enemies, but it doesn't do enough damage to kill them. The rockets are like some of the weakest explosives in the entire game, and it doesn't really kill anything. So it'll target a charger and then unload like 30 rockets and barely kill it or something like that. Maybe not like that bad, but that's what it feels like. So I'm going to put this down at the bottom of C. I'd rather have the expendable anti-tank than this thing, but I'd rather have it than some of these other ones down here. And then the EMS Mortar Sentry is, I'm gonna put it above the Rocket Sentry, but same area. It's one of those things. It has potential. You'd have to build around it. You'd have to learn how to play around it. So you have to go and like fork off in a direction with your play style and try to learn how to play the game a different way to get value out of it. And then that value you would get is just probably mediocre. Maybe be good if you could build around it, but there's better options. Again, like always, there's better options. All right, so now the Flamethrower, which I got to find in the list because this list is just all over the place. All right, Flamethrower. This is another S tier. So there was a change recently that does 50% more damage when they nerfed the railgun to make this one stronger. And now it can annihilate everything. In one canister, you could potentially kill up to 3 Chargers if you can hit their leg correctly, for example. Bile Titan, you blow their abdomen out. You walk underneath them, look up to blow their abdomen out real fast and keep going and then finish up with something else. Automatons, it's actually really bad. So actually going to think of it, S tier for Terminids, but pretty bad for automatons. I'll leave it S tier because it's so good for terminids. But just keep in mind that automatons, you're not gonna see the same value because a lot of them are not flammable, so it doesn't really work. And then autocannon. So autocannon. Oh, it's all right. Autocannon. I'll put it at the top of C, I guess. I'd rather have it than this thing, but I might rather have the arc thrower than this thing because it doesn't really kill the big enemies. But it can kill like the mid big enemies, so like the Brood Commander or the the things that look like Star Wars guys, the ones in the video over there, like the little walker guys with the armored shield. You can kill things like that. But you get like a Charger or a Bile Titan. You can blow up the Bile Titan's abdomen with it, but it takes a lot of shots. It's just not enough value. Use a backpack and it's a weapon, and it's not going to get enough value. But it's pretty strong, so it's all right. Now we have the Railgun, which was S tier. And I'm going to say that it's still S tier, but just barely. It's just barely S tier. If you put it in unsafe mode, you can still do the same things. You can still get the value from it. It's just, it's been nerfed, so it's not as strong. I'm actually going to put it top of A instead. It's like slightly too weak to call it S tier now. It's 4 shots to knock the leg off of a Charger. All the automatons take more shots to kill now. It's gotten nerfed pretty tough. Spear, I haven't used it as much as I would want to use it. I'm going to put it like probably worse than that and the rail cannon thing, but better than this. I don't remember what this was now. I need to look through those icons. Which turret was that again? I already forgot which one we put there. Oh, the auto cannon. Probably worse than the auto cannon, but better than these things. I'm going to put it right there. So the spear can kill the big enemies. It does a lot of damage, but it's usually like 2 of these to kill something actually a lot of the time or more. So it's like if it one-shot any big enemy like the Bile Titan or a tank, I'd put it in S tier, but it's not a one-shot, so kind of tough. And you got to reload it yourself because most people aren't going to have someone else reloading for you. So it's just, if you want to use up 2 people just to not one-shot everything, like it's tough. Maybe you can one-shot, but I never had a one-shot when I shot things like in the video, so I don't know. But it doesn't seem that great. Anti-material rifle. This one is probably better than these things. Probably better than these things. I'd probably put it right here. It can be fun to use. It's an early game thing to use, but it's really not that great. Like, I'd rather have the machine gun sentry than it, but I'd rather have it than some of the inconsistency, some of these other things. And I'm probably going to move the minefield up, actually. It's probably better than the randomness of these barrages. And yeah, I'd rather have the minefield than it, just by a little bit. I'll swap these things around like that. All right, so now we have a backpack, and this one is, I guess we saved one of the best things for last, the shield generator pack. Now, this was S tier, but it got nerfed, and after the nerf, it is still S tier. So we're just going to put it here with these packs. And now that I'm done with the tier list, that's all the things there. There's the Patriot Exosuit, which they don't have the icon for here, but if we did, it'd be S tier. Okay, I need to like add one. Okay, I just literally added it myself. You can do that on the site. So Patriot Exosuit, S tier. It's probably the best thing in the game right now. It's extremely overpowered. It's the new thing they added. It can kill Bile Titans, Chargers, and kill all the little enemies and things. Get this, and then you have 3 of them total, at least when I made the video. So 2 of them from this, and then 1 you just already have as a default stratagem calling right now. So yeah, it's broken as hell right now. It'll probably get nerfed at some point, but for now it's insanely broken. So now looking at that, I'm going to reevaluate some of these. Are there anything that stands out to me? I'm thinking maybe this and this go to S tier because I prefer them over the railgun. And then other than that, I'm seeing if there any other adjustments I want to make. Not really. I mean, this is about close enough. I mean, obviously, these things could move around a little, but this will give you some general guidelines on what to expect. So as a reference point, in case you're wondering who the hell's telling you all this, I make guides all the time. I can beat the game solo Helldive. I can just run through and kill everything. I've had like 600 kill games solo Helldive, especially on tournament missions where it's easy. That's kind of the reference point. So not saying I'm the greatest person who's ever lived some crazy thing like that, but just saying like I know the game. Okay, I know the game pretty well at this point. Maybe some people out there know more than I do or better than me at this. I mean, there definitely are, but good reference point for you. Hopefully that helps you out. That's the main point. I'm trying to help you. That's really the point of what I'm doing here. I'm just trying to help you understand, give you some reference points, because I know, especially if you're newer, what the hell's even good? What should I even look to use? You know, you can use what you want to use, what's fun, but if you want to use what's fun, but also a compromise between not sucking, but also being fun, you know, might want to pick from the things that are higher on this list. So there's your options. That's what I think. Hopefully it helps you out, guys. Yeah, that's my tier list. So these are the best and worst stratagems ranked by tier in Helldivers 2.